Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reviews That Don't Matter with Jessica Hitt. My name is Jessica Hitt, and on today's episode, we are talking about The Disaster Artist, the movie about the worst, best movie, or the best, worst movie ever made, The Room. The Disaster Artist is actually a movie that's based on a book written by Greg Sestero, who was the sort of co-creator of The Room in a way. Like, he was a co-lead with, of course, Tommy Wiseau. Tommy Wiseau wrote it, directed it, produced it, and starred in it. So Greg Sestero basically dealt with him. He lived with him. He's the reason why he was in LA for that time. And he wrote the book about the experience of being with Tommy Wiseau and the production of The Room. And James Franco read this book before he saw The Room, knew of The Room, really. And he decided he wanted to make that into a film, and now we have it, starring, of course, James Franco's Tommy Wiseau, Dave Franco, his brother, the first time they've appeared in a movie together as Greg Sestero. You have Seth Rogen in this. You've got a whole bunch of people in here. Alison Brie is in this, and I mean, I'm so into this movie. I love this movie. I thought it was so much fun, but also like slightly heartbreaking at times, but also incredibly heartwarming at the end of this movie. And knowing the behind the scenes of The Room, which, by the way, I reviewed yesterday, if you guys want to watch that before you watch this. When you watch The Room, you wonder how this movie was made. You wonder what was going on behind the scenes. Like, did these actors know they were making a bad film? Or like, how was this written? Who produced this? Who gave all the money? And this movie gives it all to you. And Tommy Wiseau himself has said that the movie is like 99% true, even though he said the book is like 30 or 40% true to what happened. So who knows, and really we should never take the word of Tommy Wiseau. The movie actually spans several years. I think it starts in 98 with Greg Sestero and Tommy Wiseau both are in the same acting class in San Francisco, right? Yeah, San Francisco. And they meet and they enjoy each other's company in a way. There's something that is very interesting about Tommy to Greg, and he just kind of latches on to him because Tommy is so sure of himself in this way, and he's so like endearing in the way that he talks about making art and like making films and doing what you love to do, which is just like, I mean, I would be endeared by him. Is that a way to use that word? I don't know. I just, put it in there. And basically on a whim, Greg Sestero packs up with Tommy Wiseau. They go and move to LA where Tommy Wiseau has his own place because he's like a millionaire or a billionaire. We don't know how much money he has, and we don't quite know how he makes it. He has a place up there already that he's barely ever living in. And so Greg goes and moves up there with him, and then it's a couple years of them like not really getting any work whatsoever and being very disgruntled, and like you feel like that lifestyle is so hard, and like wanting something so bad, and whether you have the talent for it or not, it's hard to do. And then of course he gets this great idea to write his own movie and put them in it because that's the way that they're going to be able to do what they love. So Tommy Wiseau writes this movie, and it follows the casting of this and how just like weird it was, the equipment buying, how they got the studio for it, and then just kind of this. What I really liked about the film is the first like several days of filming. Tommy Wiseau, he was a director, but he wasn't acting yet. Like, that wasn't in the call card. It was a lot of the other actors going. And, I don't think they thought they were making, like, a great film, but it wasn't, like, the worst thing they've ever seen. And, like, their spirits were really high with all of these actors. And then Tommy Wiseau has his very first scene, and it just goes downhill from there. And it's just, like, they do such a great job of showing this sort of just fall apart and his psyche, Tommy Wiseau's psyche of just like, he understands what's going around him, and he just, I don't know if it's an act he's putting on, but his whole demeanor and the way he talks and his earnestness, like, it is so strange. It is just incredibly strange. And the one thing he absolutely hates is being laughed at. He hates it. And so that's a kind of running theme throughout this movie, is like you see him getting laughed at certain bits, and the more and more it happens, because the more and more you get attached to this character, with James Franco playing it fantastically, by the way. Like, it is insane. Like, the way that he portrays him. And so it keeps moving on throughout the film. He gets laughed at and laughed at more, and then by the end of it, it's heartbreaking to watch it happen because you've actually gotten attached to this character, even though he could be a complete lunatic and it's just like absolutely crazy and like obviously sort of hates women in a way. There is something about him that's like you've traveled so far with him to make something, to make art, which is what so many people who love The Room want to do. You know, you appreciate it at its core, I guess. And while James Franco is amazing in this role, and I would actually love to see him get nominated for an Oscar for it, just because how spot on it is, the other actors in this do a great job. I love Dave Franco in this, and I've never been a huge Dave Franco fan. Like, I think he's fine, but there's something about him that always felt like holding back for me. You know, I don't really know how to explain it. But this film, I thought he nailed it. I did, even though he doesn't really look like Greg Sestero, and he's like 2 feet shorter than him. It still works, and the on-screen chemistry between him and his brother James Franco is obviously outstanding. And I've seen some interviews where James has been trying to get him in his movies for years, and finally was able to after you see The Room and he tells all of his friends about it. I love Seth Rogen in this because I think Seth Rogen is one of those actors, one of those comedians that can transition into a more serious role, which he's taking on more serious roles, and I think it's gonna be a very Jim Carrey and The Truman Show, and of course Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society and Good Will Hunting. Like, I think that he could follow in that role because he's a great actor, is what he is. He's not just a comedian who does comedy movies. He is a good actor who is a comedian but also can act. And while this movie is funny, it's also like, I would definitely place it in a comedy realm, but there's so much heart to it that it does, have some parts to where, like, I started tearing up at moments. Like, at the end when they screened The Room at his premiere that somehow people showed up to, which is insane. He, obviously everyone there thinks this movie is crap, and then they start laughing at him, and you just see him fall apart inside and just feel just like so terrible, which is exactly how anybody who acts or writes or puts himself out there in a way, sings in a way that's more vulnerable than like doing a desk job or serving or anything like that. Like, everyone's terrified of that happening, and really what it all is about is overcoming that fear. And that's what he was doing throughout the making of this whole film, is to trying to overcome all of that. And then at the end, they're still laughing at him. And it's just, and you see Dave Franco's Greg Sestero right next to him, who's realizing what's happening. He's obviously knows this man very, very well. He lived with him for years. And he's seeing this thing that he knows that Tommy Wiseau put so much work into and so much care, and he actually thought he was making a great movie. And when he runs out, Greg, follows him, gives him like this great pep talk of being like, you're making these people feel things, like they are loving it in there. This movie is just, it's genuinely one of my favorite movies I've seen this year. Like, I would watch this over and over again. I love the recreating of the scenes after sort of when the credits are rolling, or like right after the movie, like right before like the main credits. You see them do scenes side by side with The Room, and it's insane, like how real, like these people had to watch The Room so much. And Tommy Wiseau, he actually, like, you see it in The Disaster Artist, he like documents the entire thing. James Franco had 180 hours worth of Tommy Wiseau footage from behind the scenes that he studied for this role. Like, it is insane the amount of work that was put into this film, and how much love was put into this film as well. And it's just bleeding the love that these people have for this industry, and how it can be the best and worst thing ever. And on the recommendations level, I would actually recommend this to pretty much anybody. I would. Maybe not my dad, because there is like a weird nude butt scene type of thing going on in there. But I would tell pretty much anybody to watch this movie. I think that it's a shame if it doesn't get some awards love. I think that James Franco has it in the bag to win Best Comedy Actor in a Lead Role for the Golden Globes. I mean, if anybody beats him, it's a freaking travesty because this is an actual comedy, and Golden Globes likes to nominate things in the comedy category that are not comedy. I will say that I think it has a way tougher shot with the Academy Awards, but I do think that there's something there. I think he's definitely a contender. I do think that Best Screenplay should totally be in it. Best Original Screenplay, I guess Adapted Screenplay is technically what it would be in because it's based off a book. I don't know, but it needs to be nominated. I really can't wait to see what happens. If it gets snubbed, I'm going to be so pissed. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what are your thoughts on The Disaster Artist. Would you recommend it to people? Also, don't forget to subscribe. I make videos Monday through Friday. We're getting Star Wars this week and another Christmas Netflix Hallmark-ish movie. So just, I'm really excited for the holidays. Okay, I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.